If I were the devil. If I were the devil. If I were the prince of darkness, I'd want to engulf the whole world in darkness, and I'd have a third of its real estate and 4/5 of its population, but I wouldn't be happy until I had seized the ripest apple on the tree. Thee. So I'd set about, however necessary, to take over the United States. I'd subvert the churches first. I'd begin with a campaign of whispers. With the wisdom of a serpent, I would whisper to you as I whispered to Eve, do as you please. To the young, I would whisper that the Bible is a myth. I would convince them that man created God instead of the other way around. I would confide that what's bad is good and what's good is square. And the old I would teach to pray after me, Our Father, which art in Washington. And then I'd get organized. I'd educate authors in how to make lurid literature exciting so that anything else would appear dull and uninteresting. I'd threaten TV with dirtier movies and vice versa. I'd peddle narcotics to whom I could. I'd sell alcohol to ladies and gentlemen of distinction. I'd tranquilize the rest with pills. If I were the devil, I'd soon have families at war with themselves, churches at war with themselves, and nations at war with themselves, until each in its turn was consumed. And with promises of higher ratings, I'd have mesmerizing media fanning the flames. If I were the devil, I would encourage schools to refine young intellects, but neglect to discipline emotions. Just let those run wild. Until before you knew it, you'd have to have drug-sniffing dogs and metal detectors at every schoolhouse door. Within a decade, I'd have prisons overflowing. I'd have judges promoting pornography. Soon I could evict God from the courthouse, then from the schoolhouse, and then from the houses of Congress. And in his own churches, I would substitute psychology for religion and deify science. I would lure priests and pastors into misusing boys and girls and church money. If I were the devil, I'd make the symbol of Easter an egg and the symbol of Christmas a bottle. If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have and give to those who wanted until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious. And what'll you bet? I couldn't get whole states to promote gambling as the way to get rich. I would caution against extremes in hard work, in patriotism, in moral conduct. I would convince the young that marriage is old-fashioned, that swinging is more fun, that what you see on TV is the way to be. And thus I could undress you in public, and I could lure you into bed with diseases for which there is no cure. In other words, if I were the devil, I'd just keep right on doing what he's doing.
This was video done in 1965. Everything that he talked about in 1965 is not something that we as a people make. How do we do that? How do we stop so much division between our own people and one another?
The answer is to take the power from the church. Give the power back to our Almighty God. Let the churches be the place when anything goes wrong that you come running to. Right now, the world is winning, but it's not winning. We need to reach our young people because we are the Bible that they've seen. If we are the Bible that they've seen, then what are they reading? What are they seeing? What's the message that we're sharing? Paul Harvey, I was trying to come back and forth about showing that video, but that video has been out for a long time. But it has the power of the message. It shows us, even in 1965, they knew where we were headed. In our today's society, we need to turn this thing around. How do we do that? It begins with me. Stop waiting on somebody else, somebody else, somebody else. Let it begin in me. It's time for the church to take a stand like what we used to stand. Do you remember the time where the pastor said something of me? take a stand on the division? Our answer is, instead of focusing on race relations, let's focus on grace relations. Let me say it one more time before we take our seat. Instead of focusing on race relations, while we are divided, let's focus on grace relations. Let's go to God in prayer this morning. Father God, it's in your Master's name that we pray this morning. We thank you for another day's journey. Father God, we thank you for a new grace and new mercy. We thank you that everything that you've done for us, we're not worried, but we're just thankful this morning for all that you continue to do in our lives. Father God, as we celebrate today, we celebrate you. Giving us an answer on how do you move forward. Father God, thank you for your word this morning. Thank you for your people this morning. Now, Father, less of me, but more of you. As we got to make your word, as we get strength from you this morning. Father, give our hearts a new anointing, a fresh anointing, that we would learn how to be better servants for you. It's in your Master's name that we pray this prayer. We say amen, amen, and amen. Thank you, Jesus. As we take in our seats, let's give God a hand clap of praise. Instead of focusing on grace relations, we should focus on grace relations. How awesome our God is. No other institution in the world has the potential to change the world and address global issues as the local church. No force on earth is unstoppable as the local church. When we are functioning as a unified body of believers, there's nothing that's impossible. See, I think about the pastor that made that statement or made that comment. If you don't like what's going on, get off the boat and go back where you came from. The thing that bothers me about that statement is not that he, being a senior pastor, would make or have the audacity to make a statement like that, but it was his congregation that cheered him on when he did. We have to be mindful. We have to be careful about the power that we have standing in. There are a lot of people that are just listening to every word that come out of his mouth. And we have to be mindful of the effect that we have. See, I remember as a child, if the pastor or the deacon of the church said something, that was it. There was no question. Because of who they was and the role that they had, that's it. It was almost as God himself had said. We need to go back to where this office or the office of the deacon has a lot of strength. See, we now focus on, well, he ain't right or she ain't right and that kind of thing. But one thing you must remember, the closer that you get to God, your accountability level goes up to God. So while you're worried about what he said and what he did, remember there's an accountability that he must give account for. Just like we all one day must give account for our lives. He has a stronger accountability that he must face. So stop focusing on what he said and read your word yourself. Because if you read and study your word yourself, you can't stand up here and he do anything. Because you read it for yourself and you have a good understanding of what it means. Then I think about the flood in Texas and how you can see everyone coming together. Didn't matter, black, white, Mexican, it didn't matter. But we came together as a nation, as a country, and no one was supposed to Some folks that had never been to Pratt City, some folks that had never been to that side of Birmingham came to see those devastations. And their heart was pierced. Think about the message that God is showing us. It's time that we get our lives together. It's time that we stop focusing on your color, where you came from, and start focusing on, I'm only here because of His grace. Then I think about this month as we celebrate Christmas. I was a part of that about a week or two ago to where we as a people unified. We walked down together in those same streets that were once segregated. Those same streets that had dogs and police beating our people, those were the same streets that we as a people were unified. I took my camera out and I looked forward, black, white, together. I took my camera and I looked behind me, black, white, together. We were unified. Because we all had one common goal, to keep cancer first. When we are unified as a people or as a group, there is nothing that we can do. It's so amazing to me that when we're able to focus on a common goal, we can be victorious. In our text today, Jesus was the first example of breaking the barriers of where you came from and where I came from. To unify us or give us a great example of unity. See, we can't say, well, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to start that. He gave us a great example. As we go back in the book of John, in the 4th chapter, and we start somewhere about the first verse, it says, Jesus realized that the Pharisees were keeping count of the baptism that he and John performed. Although his disciples, not Jesus, did the actual baptizing, they had posted the score that Jesus was ahead, turning him and John into rivals in the eyes of the people. So Jesus left the Judean countryside and went back to Galilee. See, John the Baptist, he was preaching about the Messiah was coming. He was preaching about repentance. Getting the people ready, he spoke that there was one coming that would take away the sins of the world. See, when Jesus comes on the scene, John the Baptist said, follow him, because now I must increase as he increases.
I must decrease as he increases. Because this is the one that I was talking about. This is the one that I was saying was coming to die for the sins of our world. Another note to mention here, when they came to be baptized, it wasn't about where they came from. It was all about their hearts and focusing on forgiveness. See, it didn't matter who baptized them. All they wanted to know was, can I be baptized? And see, no matter who baptizes you, baptizing is a symbol. It means dying to my old self. It means dying to my old ways and living a new life. So while they were keeping track of who was being baptized, whether I was baptized by John or whether I was baptized by Jesus, it didn't matter. What matters was the salvations that were given. What matters is the new life that were given. Changing their mindset to focus on a higher calling or a higher power. Now, to get there to Samaria, he came into Sychar, a Samaritan village that bordered the field Jacob had given his son Joseph. Jacob's well sit there in that city. Now, this was the shortest route, or was it the shortest route? Or was it just ordained for him to be at this place at this time? See, sometimes we look at situation and we look at some things that happen and we say, oh, this deja vu. I done had this happen before. Remember, nothing just happens. There's a reason why you're at the place where you are today. There's a reason why you're sitting in here today. Nothing just happens. Now, let's talk about this woman for a second. In verse 7 and 8, it says, a Samaritan woman came to draw water. Jesus said, would you give me a drink? Would you give me a drink of water? See, he had already sent his disciples on to town to get food. See, he made it very clear that this was just between you and me. Now, there's a significance in this woman. They didn't even give her a name. They just said a Samaritan woman. They didn't say Mary, the Samaritan woman, Jesse, the Samaritan woman. They said a Samaritan woman. See, there's no significance in her name. There's a significance in sometimes our titles. See, sometimes we get focused on, well, I'm the head deacon, I'm the chairman of this, I'm the chairman of that, but what are you doing with that role? What are you doing to bring people to Christ? See, one thing I've truly learned in this walk, we're either pushing people away or we're drawing people with the way that we live. Not what comes out of our mouth, but what people see when they look at you. So think about that for a second. What are you doing in your daily walk? Are you pushing people or are you pulling people? My Lord. Now, I also must note here that usually in those times when the women go to the well, they go in groups. And they usually go late in the evening. But this particular time, this woman was at the well by herself. Now, just imagine, if you will, that Jesus had been traveling from about 6 in the morning to now noon. And he's at a point to where he's famished. He's got to the point to where he said, y'all go on forward, I'm going to sit right here. And he sits at the well and he opens up a conversation, if you will, with somebody that's not worthy. He could have been talking to you. He could have been talking to me. Because none of us are worthy. See, this Samaritan woman, she was known for being an unclean woman. She was known for not having the best reputation. But it was something about this conversation. It was something about this meeting. A divine intervention. To where no matter where you've been, no matter where you come from, this is about you today. My Lord. See, I also must note that this was not what we say all the time, it just happens. This is not a just it happens minute. Just like at your day, just like at your time, when you came to Christ, it didn't just happen. It was a divine time for you to change your life. I want to go to verse 9, our key verse. And I want to think about, I want this to resonate in your heart for a second. It says, the Samaritan woman said to him, you are a Jew and I am a Samaritan woman. How can you ask me for a drink? For Jews do not associate with the Samaritans. See, the Samaritan woman, she was taken back. How come you, a Jew, How come you as white? How come you as Mexican? What is it? Or asking me for something. How can you ask me for something and you don't even have anything to get water with? See, Jews in those days, they wouldn't be caught dead talking to Samaritan. I remember as a child, I remember a white repairman coming over to the house. I remember him asking for a drink of water. And I remember after he leaves, throw that cup away. We don't leave that kind of stuff in this house. But how have we converged? How have we changed to where some of our light-skinned brothers are closer to us than our own brothers and sisters? See, we got to get to the point of where we stop painting everybody with the same brush and judge a person on what you see in their heart. See, Jesus gave us an example here. He didn't say, where's your husband? Because it goes on later in this chapter where they talk about her husbands. And she done had 5 of them. My Lord, and the one that she, oh, well, that's another story on a different day. But he breaks down the barriers like we have to do sometimes. Break down the barriers to where no matter where you come from, I'm going to show you some love. Because we all are children of the Most High God. That means that we have the same father. That means we have the same dad, right? So how can, because of your skin lighter than mine, because of your skin darker than mine, we be, you cut us off, we bleed the same. We must focus on grace. Because it's only through God's grace that we are here today. Not anything that we've done, not how much we have or how much we got stored up, but it's God's grace and mercy that is sufficient in our lives. So how do we approach people who are non-believers? I'm glad you asked. How do you get the attention to talk to anyone about God or being born again? See, we can talk about sports. We can talk about politics. But can you strike up a conversation about how awesome your God is to a non-believer? See, it's easy to talk about these things with people that look like you, dress like you, may even have the same skin color as you. But what about when we get outside? See, all of us have been called to do something. We've been given an opportunity to go out of these walls and draw others to God. Not draw them to Pastor Ken, but to draw them closer to God. Some of the things I've been through, some of the places I've been, I'm not proud of, but where I am now, I'm pretty proud of it. So it's great for me. I love the opportunity to talk to someone about Christ. As a young person, is your walk the same to where you're great or willing to talk to somebody about Christ? That same person that'll standoffish to you, let them go through something. Let them go through something to where they don't see a way. And they heard you talk about a scripture. They heard you talk about church. Those will be the main ones that reach out to you. And that's not your time to look down on them and say, oh, I knew you was going to come. That's the ministry moment that you must capitalize on. So I don't care what brought you here. I'm just glad that you are here. See, that's where we've got to be. We've got to remember that this once was you. Looking on the outside, trying to get in. This once was you breaking down the barriers, breaking down the walls, to where I'm not focused on race relations, I'm focused on God's grace relations. How are we going to fix what's going on in our world today? For a minute, think about how far we've come with race relations and how far we still have to come. Stop thinking about you and the hatred that's in your heart for sometimes. Sometimes we don't even know why we dislike a person while there's hatred in our heart from a person. Well, mama said I should feel this way. Daddy said I should feel this way. But if there is hatred in your heart, there's no room for the love of God in it. See, one thing that we've got to do, we've got to get some of this stuff out so we can get some of the good stuff in. See, you've got to look at your heart sometimes as like a something with 100% in it. If you've got 30% of hate, you've got 30% of bigotry, then that's 60% of love that could have been in there. If it's going to change, if it's going to happen for our young people, it's got to begin with us. See, there's so many things that we've been through as a community, as a people. But there's so many great things that we have access to now. Some of our good friends are of a lighter persuasion than us. See, once we stop saying that man is holding me down, some of us have other people that are looking up to us right now because God has been so good to us. You didn't get that promotion because you know more than everybody else. You didn't get that job because you were more qualified than somebody else. It's your walk with God that got you that. So how can we not thank him for that? How can we say, Lord, I know that I'm not qualified. I know that it's not what I did that got me here, but I'm just grateful. See, I stopped focusing on my skin color, where I come from. I start focusing on his grace is sufficient. That no matter where I am in life, his grace is sufficient. No matter what I've been through to get me to this point, his grace is sufficient. That no matter what it looks like sometimes, and see, sometimes it looks kind of dark out there, but I've realized that his grace is sufficient. No matter what my situation is. I didn't come from anything, but through God, I can be everything. See, when you're looking at me, you're thinking I'm all this and all that. We are nothing but dust. But if we allow God to mold us, if we allow God to shape us into something, only then we will come out as pure gold. See, you worrying about the things that you're going through, the things that you're faced with right now. Remember, gold is made gold by shaping from the fire. See, you're going through something because there's something down the road that God is preparing you for. See, you're going through something because I see something in your future that you don't see. See, God is blessing us and we don't realize how much he's blessing us. When we get out in our cars, we say, well, I'm going to be late. But there's a reason why you're in the situation that you're in. There's a reason why you're stopped when you're stopped. See, there was an accident ahead that he stopped you from. See, we focusing on, well, I don't have this and I don't have that. There are plenty of folks that would love to have what you have. See, instead of focusing on what we don't have, let's focus on his grace being sufficient. Let's focus on how good my God has been to me. In spite of I'm not where I ought to be. But see, I thank God I'm not where I used to be. See, one thing that I've learned that God has something in store for each one of us. Once we stop focusing on race relations and we focus on his grace is sufficient. no matter where you are in life, no matter what you've been going through. Yeah, you had some roadblocks. You had some things that you went through that you shouldn't have made it. But I look back at those situations and I say, I'm glad that I made it. Because I realized that it's not me, anything I've done, but through his grace and his mercy, he kept me. And see, we used to sing that song, he kept me in spite of. Because if he didn't keep me, I would have lost my mind. See, we get to the point where we made it over and then we look back at that situation and we think that we did it. His grace and his mercy. Yeah, I didn't pay for, but he saw something in me like he see in each one of you. He said, that's my child. See, it's something about calling on him. And he takes your call. See, I can hear a bunch of things going on, and then you say, well, Jesus, I'm in this situation again. And then you said, Lord, I need your help right now. And because of who you are, because of whose you are, he said, wait a minute, y'all stop. That's my child. I've got to take this call. Because I see my child is in need of help. And see, no matter what the room looks like, a crowded room, a mother will tell you that my child can call out in a crowded room. I know my child's voice. See, that's the kind of situation we need to be in with God. That no matter where you are, no matter what the situation looks like, I can call on him and he answers my prayer. Every time. And see, sometimes we get in a situation and we don't know which way to turn. All you got to do is call his name. All you got to do is say, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. And then there's just something about calling his name. The more I call him, the better I feel. No matter what the situation looks like, I just call on my Jesus. Yeah, I may be at a roadblock. I may not be what he's created me to be, but I thank God that I'm not where I used to be. I thank God that he sees something in me that I don't even see in myself. But he keeps on working on me. He keeps on making a way when there is no way. See, I need to talk to somebody that ain't got food on their plate. And they go home and they sit at the table and they pull up a chair and say, Lord, I know you're going to provide. See, I need to talk to somebody who light bill due tomorrow. And you don't know where that's coming from. But you said, Lord, you did it for me before, you're going to do it for me again. See, I need to talk to someone that the repo man been riding around. And he looking for your car. But I said, Lord, I'm going to the car lot to get me a new car. Because I know that my God is a provider. And no matter what it looks like, he provides for me in spite of my situation, in spite of where I am right now, he is my provider. His grace is sufficient. Wherever you are, whatever you've been through, whatever you're going through, give it to God. Stop bringing things to the altar and taking them back with you. Give it to him and leave it there. Take your hands off of it. See, you've been dealing with it for 10 years, 15 years, sometimes 20 years, and you have no solution. See, my Father, and see, I can speak to him like that. My Father has cattle upon 10,000 hills. So how he's not gonna take care of his son? Every time I call on him, he's right there. And it's something about being in his care. Something about him when troubles get so much for me to bear. Something about him carrying me from one place to another. See, I get in the situation where I can't see a way, but he always makes a way. Let's give him a hand clap of praise. Jesus went on a little further in this lesson, and he spoke to that woman. He said, if you only knew who I was. You're trying to give me water to drink, and I'm trying to give you water to drink. See how he changed that situation around? I'm coming to you and I'm asking for something, but I've got something to give you that's more powerful than what you got to give. But you got to do something for it. You got to trust me. See, faith is stepping out on nothing, believing something is going to happen. See, some of us get confused with the definition of insanity. See, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. That's insanity. But when you get to the point to where you can trust God, I mean really trust God, you can step out on faith, believing that my God has me covered. In spite of what I've done, in spite of where I am, he covers me. He's not waiting on me to get there. See, some of us are saying, well, I'm going to come to God once I finish my habits that I have. I'm going to come to him once I stop drinking, once I stop gambling, once I stop lying. But God says, come to me as you are. And if you just come to me, I will make a way. I'll make a way when there seems like there is no way. He is a way maker. So if today is your day, if you are out of the ark of safety or you feel led here, this is your time, this is your hour.